Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Peter here, and it is time for the PDG Advertising Podcast episode 67. It is the 9th of April 2021. It is a beautiful sunny day here in Portadown, and I am looking forward to taking you through the PDG Advertising Podcast. So, what a time to be doing a podcast in the middle of lockdown number 643 in the coronavirus era. I hope that in years to come, people will listen to this. I hope people will listen to this podcast. Never mind listen to this podcast and look back and not remember anything about coronavirus and the restrictions that were put on it. I just wanted to say before we start, thanks so much for all your listens. I'm looking forward to connecting with you on the podcast in the future. We'd be so grateful. It would mean the world to us to get any comments or shares or likes of this podcast. Really enjoy doing it. And we're looking forward to, as I said, bringing more people onto the podcast, getting more views about digital advertising and the state of the internet in 2021 and beyond. So what is PDG Advertising and what is the PDG Advertising Podcast? For those avid listeners who have listened to every single episode up to episode 67, all two of you, the podcast is kind of a short, small documentation of what's going on at PDG Advertising. And for those of you that don't know, PDG Advertising is a digital ad agency based in Northern Ireland, headquartered, as I was saying before, in Portadown. And we have customers all over the world. We've got them in Australia, in Canada, in the US, in South Africa, in Israel, all over the place. And what we do for them is we connect businesses with their customers. So if you're a business or you work in a business, one of the vital signs is that you're able to pull in new customers. And that's effectively what we help people do. It's so interesting because it comes in all shapes and sizes. Some businesses, it's going to be appropriate to advertise on LinkedIn. Some it's going to be appropriate to advertise on Instagram. Most businesses, I feel it's appropriate to have a presence on multiple channels that are relevant to the user. And if I look hard enough on every channel, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, I can usually develop a reason as to why you would want to have some presence on each of those channels. But our job is to find the most effective route to market using online digital channels. And the PDG podcast is just a documentation of our journey, of our team, our core team of Anthony and Nicole, and our wonderful contractors that we have working with us, our wonderful customers, our partners, the people that we work with, our connected businesses, and just anybody that has an interest in digital advertising or what's going on the internet today. So the PDG Advertising Podcast, it's a mix of documentation and news, I hope, and we hope it's of some interest to someone somewhere. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll jump right into it now. We've got an interesting segment now on the PDG Advertising Podcast, and it's all about LinkedIn polls. Now, about a month and a half ago or so, I did a poll on LinkedIn, and I was shocked at the results, the amount of people that engaged with the poll. And we've got another one here now about what social media platform people spend most of their time on. So I gave a few options: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and other. And if you had other, you could comment and put your social media platform of choice below. And why I did this was I'm really interested in it. I want to know what people are interested in now for a very self-serving interest of, I then want to then interact with people on the platforms that they're keen on and that they're interested in. Now, I realize this is not the most scientific of polls in the world. Doing a poll on LinkedIn about the most attention-grabbing social network is definitely not the most scientific way to go about this, but that's what we've done. So there were three options: Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. And as I said, other people could put in comments what their social media platforms. Now, apart from Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, in the comments, Twitter seems to have been the thing that the social network that people like the most. Apart from that, no real other things. TikTok not getting a mention, Snapchat not getting a mention. I wonder, and I hope I'm not offending anybody here because I'm probably the oldest, but my demographic of people I'm connected to perhaps are of an age that maybe TikTok hasn't gripped them yet. It certainly has gripped me, and I've been down a rabbit hole many times, just aimlessly walking through TikToks. But what has happened is Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, the results are really interesting. Facebook has taken an absolute battering. 12% of people liked Facebook compared to 35% of people who liked LinkedIn. And then I think the most surprising is that Instagram is the place where people spend the most time. Now, this is not, there's no prerequisites. It's not how much time are you spending for business or pleasure. That it's just where do you spend your time? Where do you spend your time flicking through, or where do you spend your time consuming on social networks? And Instagram looks like it's the most popular. There's a few days left, but I don't think that any of the platforms are going to take over that one. So really, right now, as it sits in 2021, I think it's fair to say that Facebook is certainly losing a lot of oomph. I know I use it less and less. Instagram, part of the Facebook world, is very, very popular and can actually beat LinkedIn on its own platform in terms of who is watching what's going on social media networks. And LinkedIn, popular as you would kind of expect. And I think it's really interesting. Now, I look at the people that have taken the poll. I appreciate every one of you doing it. Thank you so much for those that got involved. And I see so many B2B people, managing directors, all levels of all companies that have done it. So I'm really interested to see how polls on LinkedIn work out, because I think it's a really great way to engage and connect with people. And from just a little moment of putting something online, connecting with 209 people and getting in front of over 10,000 people is really interesting from a digital advertising point of view for me. Something that we do a lot of at PDG Advertising is Facebook ads. And Facebook ads probably accounts for, and when I say Facebook ads, I mean Facebook ads on Facebook and Instagram and the wider Facebook audience network. And it probably accounts for, let's say, 90% of, it's maybe a bit much, probably about 60% of the work that we do at PDG Advertising. It's a big, big deal for us to be good at Facebook ads and Instagram ads and understand, what's possible with them and how to use them for customers. And it's been a while since we've done the PDG Advertising Podcast, so a lot can happen in Facebook ads in a day, never mind across the course of a few months. And something big happened about 2 or 3 months ago where, if you've been following the news at all, there's been this big war between Apple and Facebook about privacy. I guess it's not a war between Apple and Facebook. It's a war between everyone and big tech using their data to sell us things, which is a big part of what PDG Advertising does. And Apple have always been more on the side of privacy and keeping data more private. Not that they don't take enough data of their own, but they would be one of the more, let's keep people's information private to big tech or outside influences. So Facebook, on the other hand, isn't. And whenever you log into Facebook, you're handing over so much data about yourself, and your customers are handing over so much data about themselves, which allows us to create exceptional experiences on news feeds, we would hope. But if I'm being more realistic, at times adverts can be pretty annoying. I mean, who really wants to see adverts on the TV? That's why we're the plus 30 generation, where we're fast forwarding through adverts. But anyway, this war between Apple and Facebook came to head a couple of months ago, where Apple said, right, that's it. No more tracking users across platforms on our device. So whenever I tell someone what I do, normally they'll ask, oh, are you the people that are listening in and putting adverts on our news feeds whenever we've looked up a pair of shoes or looked up a new car? I'm getting followed around by these adverts. Are you responsible? And the answer is actually yes. We do use retargeting as a very strong method of bringing customers through a sales funnel. Apple have basically said in their update 14.4, not allowed to do that anymore. If you want to track someone and advertise to someone based on where they've been before, they're going to have to opt in to allow you to do that. So if you're an Apple user, I'm not. I'm a real Android user. I'm kind of not big on Apple products at all. I think they look beautiful, but functionality-wise, they just don't do what I need them to do. So if you have an Apple device, what will happen is, and it might have happened already, where you'll upgrade or update to iOS 14, and there's a 14.4 update. And excuse me if I get anything that wrong. I'm not an Apple geek or an Apple nerd. So you'll update to it, and you'll get a notification that says, do you want to opt in to being tracked? And are you really going to tick that button? Are you going to say, yes, you can follow me around the internet and sell me stuff? And realistically, you're not. And most people aren't either. So what does that mean for businesses? Can businesses advertise as effectively? Definitely not as effectively as they could, pre this update. It hasn't been rolled out totally yet. We don't know when it's going to be properly rolled out. It's probably in the process of being rolled out, country by country. But there'll come a time when the amount of data that we have at our fingertips is less than what we have now. And it brings me to a bigger point. Advertising is always getting worse. It's always getting worse. So my dad's business, the driving school, whenever newspapers were being read, because they're not now, whenever newspapers were being read, he could put in a £500 advert and the phone would ring off the hook. If he put in a £500 advert now, well, to be fair, he'd probably be able to take over the whole paper for £500 or an episode or publication of the paper for that. But if he did that, we know that we wouldn't see that money ever again. It would never come back in, because the world is all about Facebook. So throughout history, throughout time, TV coming along and killing radio advertising, and the internet coming along and killing TV advertising, privacy is coming along and killing Facebook advertising to a certain degree. But there will always be something else that grabs attention more. The TikToks of the world, the Snapchats of the world. I guess what I'm saying is keeping an ear to the ground and close to the pulse of what's happening online and on adverts is really important for us and everybody that has anything to do with business or advertising, so that you can adapt and use that information going forward to make your business better and compete with those around you who are doing the exact same thing. So PDG stands for Peter Doak Global, and being global is a really important part of our business. From a little office in Portadown, we work with customers all over the globe doing their Facebook and Google ads and all sorts, and email marketing for them. And I wanted to share something that I've noticed. So coronavirus hit everybody in the world. It was non-discriminatory. It just came along, and it was a thing that literally we had in common with, from here in Portadown to the people up in Belfast, to the people in Dublin, to people in London, all the way around the other side of the world to a little place that I visited once called Cagayan de Oro in the Philippines. Everybody has been impacted by coronavirus. Some way worse than others. Some we've been so lucky with family and friends, as well as, just our business being, not badly affected by it. But mentally, we've all been affected by this thing, this alien invader that has just come and attacked us indiscriminately. And what I've been able to see is, having calls basically every week with customers, or every 2 weeks at a stretch with customers, we've been able to see the different levels of impact with different countries. And there's some link to waves. I've seen, we talk about the first wave, the second wave, the third wave in our country. And I've seen similar things happen in other countries. So, like, I saw the US just getting, a huge wave of awful management of it. And I saw the reactions and how that worked over there. And I saw in better management of it in Canada. And I saw how different seasons affected different countries in different ways. So in the Northern Hemisphere, seasons are right now it's spring in the UK, but down in the Southern Hemisphere in South Africa, where one of our customers is it's autumn, at least autumn, and moving into winter. And what's interesting is we know that coronavirus spikes and gets worse in colder times, in winter times. So we're able to then plan for that in our advertising and say, look, we know that customers are going to have issues around that time, so we can start to talk about it now. But it just fascinated me in these other ways. Where in the UK here, we've been on lockdown for I don't know how long. The 4th month of the year. I've lost all track of time and I've gone slightly insane and my hair is too long. But if we think about it, so 4 months, and then it was somewhere around Christmas time where we went into lockdown. So 4 months, literally 4 months we've been in lockdown. And I was talking to our Australian team, not our Australian team, sorry, our Australian valued customer. And they were depressed because they were going into 3 days of sharp shock lockdown in Brisbane. And it was funny because whenever they told me that they were going into lockdown, I was depressed. I thought, oh no, they're going to have to deal with 4 months or so of lockdown. And just as the conversation evolved ever so slightly, they said, yeah, it's 3 days of lockdown. It's just a disaster. It's like been in lockdown here for over three months. So it's been really, I honestly don't know what my point is here, but it's been fascinating and interesting to see just the pockets of what's been happening across the world with something that affects us all, and just how different countries, different people are dealing with it. It's been horrendous and fascinating also. Another big part of PDG advertising is our email marketing support for our customers. And I'm always surprised that it's 2021 and we're still talking about email marketing being a really effective way to convert customers online. It's a crucial part of your overall advertising strategy, and it still is. I put it down to email still being a way for you to verify things and to get information. I suppose it's the new mailbox. You get your post and everything by email. So it's still a place where attention is focused on for your customer base and basically everybody. I know I look at my email inbox pretty regularly. I suppose I'm a bad case study because my business is all about digital communication and digital advertising. But with email marketing at PDG, we've created like a separate focus for email marketing. We've been working hard on building up a slightly more diverse customer base in terms of customers that just need us for digital or email marketing rather than the whole spectrum of digital advertising. Now, in time, we'll likely work with those customers on other things as well. But right now, we've got a few new customers who we just work with them on their email marketing requirement. And it's really cool to see a customer that comes along with maybe 10,000 emails in their system and they've not emailed them for a very long time. And whenever we can, create an email that works and can engage with the customer base with a great offer or just to reach out, getting in touch. It can energize and electrify a business, and it's really exciting to watch that happen. There's a few things we think about when we're creating emails. So the first one for me is usually the subject line, because it's the first point of entry. So whenever an email drops in an inbox, it can be immediately deleted based on the subject line. So we put a lot of thought into our subject lines, and we try not to be spammy or tacky. We try to be relevant and clear. It's the best way to consistently build a relationship with a customer, because there's a lot of ways of hacking it. You could put in the person's first name in the subject line and people are going to open it. But whenever they see that you've just done that so that they open the email, it loses a level of trust, and that's really important for keeping that relationship over time with your customer. So subject lines, there's no magic subject line. I think it's best to just have it relevant to you, your business, and the content of the email. And that's the best and clearest way to create a great subject line. The content of the email is the second thing. The content should be clear. It should be not long, really long-winded text. It should be quite short and quite snappy. You're not recreating a newspaper or a blog. You're giving people an opportunity to see what you got and to go further. And if they want to read a lot of text, they can, if you put a link to a blog or a short snippet of it or something like that. And speaking of short snippets and getting people moving to the next stage, that my focus for the content is usually to get them to go somewhere else. So to get a great click-through, you need a great call to action. So a really clear call to action is very important, whether that be a big button or whether it be just some clear piece of text that tells people what to do next. And really, that's all that's important about email marketing. There's trying to get it to the right people. So segmentation, and I like to send emails out to big lists. And I guess that's quite obvious, because the more people you send it out to, the higher the conversion rate. That's not right. The more people you send it out to, the more chance there are of sales, and the higher the conversion level is from that email. Having said that, if you've got a huge email list, segmenting it into different categories of people, by country, by age, by interest, those type of things are very valuable as well. But usually you don't have to complicate it that much. You get a good email, you send it out, and even if it's not 100% relevant to the person that's getting it, a little bit of brand awareness and getting your name in front of a customer is nearly as important as that. So we're trusted with a lot of email addresses. There's one of our customers that has about 500,000 email addresses in their system, and every time we press that button, we send an email out once a week or so, and every time we press that button that says, this email is about to go out to 500,000 people, or it's scheduled to go out to 500,000 people, it's a scary thing. It's you have to be quite brave to press that button. It's interesting. I find it scarier to send an email out to 500,000 people than I would to do an advert that gets out to 1 million people. I'm not sure why. I think it's because of the permanent nature of email, where it's going to sit in an inbox or it's going to land in 500,000 inboxes, and you can't delete it. You can't take it back. It's out there. But over time, we've learned, you just have to have a few checks. Is your subject line good? Is the spelling and grammar correct? Is there a good call to action? Is it relevant? And then you just hit the button and you don't look back. And if you do make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. It's just something to address for next time if there's something that you would rather have done a little bit differently. So everyone, that was the PDG Advertising Podcast, episode 67. Thanks so much for listening. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, because that is where it's at, in the comments. And subscribe and share and let us know what you think. Even if you hate it, if you love it, even better. Give us a rating on whatever platform you're listening on. And I'm looking forward to episode 68. And have a wonderful day, week, month, whenever you're listening to this. And we'll speak to you soon. Oh, And just one last thing, we found out on Anchor, which is the platform we use to record the PDG Advertising Podcast, that we can add in tunes from Spotify. I don't know if we're going to get flagged somehow for doing this, but anyway, I'm going to leave you with Run DMC versus Jason Nevins. It's Like That.